Hello, this is the Lord's Legion and welcome to the best villains ever. The show in which I talk about a specific villain and talk about their backstories, abilities, greatest feats, and why I love them so much. And to celebrate the release of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I honestly thought that would be pretty cool if I was to focus on another villain within the Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. And since I focused on a few major ones, I think now is the perfect time to focus on a Spider-Man villain who is often considered to be somewhere in the B-list. And the villain in question is who I consider to be one of the most exciting out of the Rogues Gallery, Electro. So without further ado, let's begin with his backstory. So Maxwell Dillon is a New Yorker who was born in Endicott. His father was a struggling accountant and had difficulties in keeping a job. And because of this, young Max had to keep moving from city to city to the point where he became somewhat of a loose cannon. And just as his father abandoned the family, as well as his mother dying from a heart attack and even having his wife Norma to leave him, Maxwell Dillon pursued a career as a lineman. But when a fellow line repairman was knocked unconscious and struck on a high pole with a dangerous wire loose, Maxwell was told to save the lineman, and just as he succeeded in doing so, a bolt of lightning struck on Maxwell, knocking him off the pole and seemingly killing him. Though moments later, Maxwell got up and discovered that he did have some form of electric powers. Even despite of his newly found powers, Maxwell wanted to extend his powers by stealing some of Stark tech as well as borrowing some money from a certain crook. And when the crook threatened to kill Maxwell for not paying him back the money that he owed, out of self-defense, Maxwell responded to the threat with a deadly bolt of lightning which ultimately killed the guy in question. And after being somewhat aware of his full potential, Maxwell Dillon decided to take on the persona of Electro and pretty much pursue a new career as a supervillain, abusing his own electrical powers for his own personal gain. Now when you look back on Electro's origin story, you can sense one common theme throughout his entire backstory, and that is of course greed. And that's pretty much Maxwell's entire motivation. But at the same time, Maxwell was surrounded by selfish people in his life, such as his father who abandoned his family, and even his wife who just ended up leaving him. And since being a good person just wasn't enough for him in his life, Maxwell decided that he may as well just be selfish and just own it. Sure, it's not necessarily a right thing to do, but at the very least you can kinda see where he's coming from. Now there's no denying that Electro does have a lot of powers and abilities at his disposal, and the most prominent of which is of course his electrostatic energy generation, where he could generate electrostatic energy and manipulate it through a number of ways, such as lightning bolt projection as well as electromagnetic propulsion, where he could travel through electrical lines and bridges. But not only that, Electro is also capable of electrical detection, as well as electrocution, recharging, and can even enhance his physical attributions through means of electrical conversion. But along with that, Electro is also capable of metal ionization, as well as disruption of wall crawling abilities, localized electromagnetic storms, and can even manipulate electromagnetics. But to top it all off, Electro is immune to anything electric based, and if anything, electricity just makes him stronger. Now it comes as no surprise that Electro has achieved plenty of incredible feats over the years, despite being somewhat considered to be a B-list villain. And to demonstrate on how powerful Electro really is, here's a handful of some of his most impressive feats. For starters, he easily deals with Strike Zone electrokinesis by baiting him into doing a reckless attack in which Electro easily drains, taking next to no damage and absorbing his own electricity. Plus, Electro also dropped Daredevil with relative ease. He can also cut through steel doors even with his electricity, and can even attach himself to just about any form of metal like a magnet, making it easier for him to escape through certain situations. His electric shields are that powerful that he can easily block a lot of rubble, with little to no damage to the shield itself. Not to mention that Electro once made his own electric ramp and bullets were blocked by his ambient electricity. He can also just about turn people into statues by creating an electromagnetic storm around them. And his biggest claim to fame was the fact that he single-handedly caused a massive blackout, causing a storm that destroyed helicopters nearby and threw a bunch of inmates from Rikers prison. Electro once knocked the thing back hard enough to break the concrete behind him, as well as blocking the flames from the Human Torch and even taking down Johnny Storm. Plus his electricity can also blow apart concrete and can melt metal instantly. Plus his electricity is strong enough to bring down a pretty big wall. Not to mention that Electro can also create a ring of electricity around him, and he can even burn off Spider-Man's weapon just as it makes contact to his body. And as a little bonus, the aura around Electro is so powerful that it almost even killed Spider-Man before he could even make contact with him. While being supercharged, Electro was easily capable of bringing down a whole building, as well as being capable of blocking the telepathic attack from Nate Gray, and has even shown capable of frying people to a skeletal level, leaving them dead as nothing but skeletons. Not to mention that Electro had once turned Sandman into glass, as well as taken down a Quinjet by transmitting himself inside of it, as well as proceeding to speed blitz and even knocks out both Hawkeye and Spider-Woman, and easily handling the likes of Sandman, Trapster and the Wizard all by himself. But the most insane of which is of course Electro breaking free from the metal that was controlled by Magneto. And in terms of power, Magneto even claimed Electro to be his equal. And given how Electro is quite possibly one of Spider-Man's most reoccurring villains, it comes as no surprise that he appeared quite a bit in other mediums, such as his more revived incarnation in the Ultimate comics, in which Ultimate Electro actually did save the character in general by making him all the more menacing and powerful, while before then in the 616, Electro was almost seen as a joke before Ultimate Electro came around. Plus Electro also appeared in the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, in which did give him a pretty different origin, by having him being the son of the Red Skull, as well as making him pretty much godlike, which was a pretty bizarre take on the character. And then there's also my personal favourite version of Electro, of course being from the Spectacular Spider-Man, because this version of Electro was all the more sympathetic and was just a victim of circumstance. It's made pretty much clear that this version of Electro just wants to be cured and have a normal life again, but really due to his mutation he is unable to do so, and it's pretty much messing with his mind. And this is also probably my favourite design for Electro. And he even appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, portrayed by Jamie Foxx. And while a lot of people seem to give this version of Electro some slack, I personally think that Electro was a pretty decent villain, and I very much enjoyed Jamie Foxx as Electro, at least when he was Electro. As simplistic as his origin may be, I can somewhat get behind him, and at the very least he did have enough personality, and he even came across as a major threat. Now Electro may not be one of Spider-Man's most personal villains, nor is he even one of the most sympathetic either. However, many people do deem Electro to be one of the most powerful and exciting out of anyone in the Spider-Man's rogues gallery. And even over the years, Electro had evolved to the point where he became even more powerful and all the more unpredictable. And like I said, Electro may not be a deep villain by any stretch, but whenever he shows up, he is always a fun and memorable villain all the same. So because of his selfish tendencies, as well as just how powerful he became over the years, and above all else just being a fun and memorable villain all the same, this is why I personally believe that Electro is one of the best villains of all time. So are you a huge fan of Electro, and what are some of your personal favourite incarnations of Max Dillon? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video, please like and subscribe, take care and have a good one.